They say monsters are born from darkness, that they rise from the depths, sharp-fanged and hollow-eyed, hearts blackened by the void. But that is a lie. You were not born a monster. You came into this world untouched, whole, a force of light and fire with dreams too vast for small minds to comprehend. You laughed without fear, ran without chains, believed without limits. But they saw something in you. A wildfire too fierce to be contained, a storm that could never be tamed. So they tried. They tried to break you. They fed you lies like poisoned honey, whispering them over and over until they sank into your skin like ink, branding you with doubt. They told you what you could be, what you couldn't be, where your place was and how small you needed to shrink to fit inside their world. They sculpted you, shaped you, tried to carve away the parts of you that made them uncomfortable. And when you resisted, they called you a problem, a rebel, a threat, a monster. And maybe, after all the pain, after all the nights you spent clawing at your own skin trying to erase what they did to you, maybe you started to believe them. But let me ask you this. Do you remember who you were before they told you who to be? Close your eyes. Look beyond the wreckage, past the scars, before the world twisted its hands into your soul and bent you into something you no longer recognize. Can you see it? The fire that once burned inside you? The raw, untamed spirit that refused to bow? That was you. That was the truth before they buried it beneath their fear. Because that's what it was, fear. It was never about you being broken. It was never about you being wrong. It was never about you being unworthy. It was about them fearing what you could become if you ever realized the truth. They feared the moment you would look in the mirror and see the power that pulsed beneath your skin. They feared the second you would rip off the mask they forced onto your face and stand unshackled. They feared that if you ever knew what you were truly capable of, you would become unstoppable. So they did what weak people do. They tried to break what they could not control. They put you in chains, words meant to shrink you, hands meant to silence you, wounds meant to weaken you. But here's the thing about cages. They don't just keep you locked in, they keep them locked out. And while they laughed, thinking they had tamed the fire inside you, they never noticed what was happening beneath their feet. They buried you, but they forgot that you were a seed. And now you are something else. You are no longer the trembling child they tried to mold into obedience. You are no longer the quiet soul who swallowed pain without protest. You are no longer the fragile thing they thought they could control. You are something else now. Something stronger, something sharper. And soon, they will realize their mistake. They will see what happens when you push someone too far, when you strip them of everything and expect them to stay down. They will understand what it means to create a force too powerful to contain, because you were not born a monster. They made you one. And now you are awake. And when they see you rise, when they hear the sound of your steps shaking the ground, when they finally meet the thing they feared most, they will run. They feared you before you ever knew what fear was. Before you had the chance to understand the weight of the world, they were already watching, waiting for the moment to strike. You were never weak. That was the problem. You walked with too much fire in your eyes, spoke with too much certainty, moved like someone who knew they were meant for something greater. And they could not allow that. So they clipped your wings before you ever learned how to fly. They called it love, they called it guidance, they called it protection. But it was fear. It was always fear. Because they saw what you could be. And it terrified them. They couldn't let you believe in yourself. They couldn't let you stand too tall. They couldn't let you realize that you were never meant to fit inside their fragile little world. So they did what cowards do. They tried to break you. The betrayal. Do you remember the first time you trusted someone with your soul, only for them to shatter it in their hands? Maybe it was a friend who swore they would stand by you, only to whisper your secrets into the ears of the world. Maybe it was family, the ones who were supposed to love you unconditionally, but only as long as you fit the version of yourself they could control. Maybe it was a lover, someone who once held you close and called you safe, only to turn that safety into a prison. Whoever it was, they made you believe in something, and then they tore it away. And the worst part wasn't just the pain of losing them, it was the voice in your head that whispered, maybe they were right about you. That voice was their greatest weapon. They didn't just wound you, they made you doubt yourself. They made you question every step, every word, every piece of your own existence. They convinced you that you were the problem, that if you had just been quieter, smaller, softer, easier to love, none of this would have happened. But let me tell you something. The problem was never you. The isolation, and so you pulled away. You stopped trusting. You stopped speaking. You built walls around yourself so high that no one could ever hurt you again. But in the silence, in the emptiness of the space you created to survive, a new pain was born. Because loneliness is a slow kind of death. You sat with ghosts. You drowned in memories. You played their words on repeat until they became the only truth you knew. And when you finally looked in the mirror, You didn't even recognize yourself anymore. The fire in your eyes, dulled. The strength in your spine, bent. The voice that once roared like thunder, gone. And for a moment, maybe even for years, you believed that this was the end of your story. That they had won. That they had succeeded in turning you into nothing. The wounds that never healed. But here's the thing about wounds. And they do not stay open forever. Yes, they bled. Yes, they hurt. Yes, they nearly destroyed you, but scars are something else entirely. A scar is a reminder that you were stronger than whatever tried to kill you. They carved scars into your skin, but those scars became your armor. They fed you poison, but you turned it into power. Every time they underestimated you, they were forging something greater. Every time they tried to silence you, they were teaching you how to roar. Every time they left you bleeding, they were preparing you for war. And now the war is here. Who are they? They are the ones who wanted you small, the ones who flinched at your strength, the ones who felt threatened by your presence because you were a reminder of everything they could never be. They are the voices that told you who you were supposed to be, not because they cared, but because they needed to control you. They are the ones who laughed when you fell, the ones who called you too much, the ones who took your kindness and mistook it for weakness. And now they see their mistake, because you were never weak, you were never fragile, you were never the villain in their story. They called you a monster, but only because they feared the power you held. And soon, they will understand exactly what they created. Because you are no longer waiting for permission to rise, you are already rising. And when they see you standing there, unbroken, unshaken, unstoppable, they will do the only thing left for them to do. They will run. They thought they had finished you. They thought they had crushed the fire, silenced the voice, shattered the will. They thought they had buried you so deep that even the memory of who you once were would never surface again. And for a while, maybe they were right. Maybe you did drown in the silence, choking on your own screams, waiting for someone, anyone, to hear you. Maybe you did believe the weight was too much, the betrayal too deep, the wounds too raw to ever heal. Maybe you did reach the edge, toes curled over the abyss, staring into the black void and wondering if it would be easier to let go than to keep fighting. But here's what they never understood. A wounded lion is the most dangerous thing in the wild, because a lion that has never known pain, never known hunger, never known the sting of loss, it fights with arrogance. But a lion that has been wounded, left for dead, forced to crawl through its own blood just to survive, that lion knows something else entirely. That lion knows rage. That lion knows vengeance. That lion knows exactly what it means to be underestimated and exactly how to make them regret it. And you are that lion, the nights that tried to kill you. How many nights did you spend drowning in your own thoughts, trapped in a war no one else could see? How many times did you curl into yourself, whispering prayers to a God you weren't sure was listening, begging for the pain to stop? How many times did you hear their voices, those ghosts, those demons, those echoes of every cruel word they ever spoke, telling you that you weren't enough? You sat in the dark and listened, to the silence, to the hurt, to the slow, suffocating collapse of everything you once believed in. And when the morning came, you put on the mask. You smiled when they expected it. You laughed when they needed you to. You played your part so well that even you started to believe it. But the cracks were there, weren't they? Because every time you were alone, every time the noise of the world faded, the truth whispered back to you. You were breaking, piece by piece, day by day, until all that was left was a hollowed-out version of the person you used to be. And yet, you never shattered completely. Because deep inside, buried beneath the weight of their words, there was something they had overlooked, something they should have never ignored. The moment they should have feared. You thought you had lost. You thought you had nothing left. But that moment, that exact moment, was where everything changed. Because when you were at your weakest, when you had given up on saving yourself, when you had accepted the death of the person you once were, something else woke up inside you. Something raw, something ancient, something that had been waiting in the shadows for this exact moment. The monster they created. They thought they killed you, but they only woke something darker. Not the soft-hearted version of you, not the forgiving, trusting, hopeful version of you, not the one who begged to be seen, who longed to be understood. No, that version of you was gone, and in its place, something else. A force, a reckoning, a storm wearing human skin, because you finally understood. You finally saw it for what it was. Not weakness, but transformation. Not destruction, but evolution. They thought they had won, but they didn't realize they had built their own undoing. Every scar they left on you became a map leading you straight to power. Every betrayal became a lesson, sharpening your mind, hardening your heart. Every night you spent suffering was a debt that the world would one day have to repay. And now they will pay in full, because this is not the end of your story. Your life will be ripped from your grasp. Your struggle will continue. This will not be the end of your story. This is the moment they should have feared. This is the moment the world will remember. Because you are no longer their victim. You are no longer their puppet. You are no longer their prey. You are the storm. You are the consequence. You are the monster they should have never created. And now they will run. There was a moment, sharp as a knife's edge, quiet as the space between heartbeats, when everything shifted. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't the kind of moment they show in movies, the kind where the hero stands tall and declares their power for the world to hear. No, it was silent. It was the slow inhale of breath after years of suffocating. It was the first time you looked in the mirror and didn't see something broken staring back. It was the realization, not all at once, but piece by piece, that the shackles weren't there anymore, that you were free. And that moment, that was when they should have started to worry. The first time you fought back. For so long, you let their words define you. You let them write the narrative, paint you as the villain, make you believe that maybe, just maybe, they were right about you. But not anymore. Because here's the thing they never expected. You woke up. You woke up and saw the truth. That they never feared your darkness. They feared your light. That they never hated you for being weak. They hated you because they knew you were strong. And the first time you fought back, maybe it wasn't with fists. Maybe it wasn't with fire. Maybe it wasn't with words that burned like acid on your tongue. Maybe it was something much smaller. The first time you looked at them and didn't flinch. The first time their words hit you and bounced off, powerless. The first time you stood tall and walked away, leaving them in the wreckage of the lies they built around you. And in that moment, they felt fear, the realization of strength. They made you the villain in their story, but they forgot you were the hero of your own. Because pain is a crucible. It does not break warriors. It does not destroy legends. It forges them. And every wound they gave you became something else. A scar turned to armor. A loss turned to wisdom. A betrayal turned to fuel. And now they are afraid. Not because they regret what they did, not because they see the destruction they caused, but because they see what they can no longer control. The moment they realize their mistake, they spent years shaping you into something fragile. And the next moment, you're detrimental, like water under the bridge. I swooned deep inside at the word rot. They fed you their poison. They pushed you down, expecting you to stay. They convinced themselves that you would never rise, that you would never stand, that you would never ever become more than what they made you. But now they see it. The storm in your eyes, the fire in your hands, the unshakable force of someone who has nothing left to lose because they already lost everything and survived. And that terrifies them because they know that the person standing before them is not the same one they broke. And for the first time, they are the ones who want to run. You are not their victim anymore. You are not the thing they molded, shaped, controlled. You are not bound by their words, their expectations, their chains. You are something else, something unbreakable, something they will never understand, something they should have never created. And now you decide how this story ends. Will you be the storm? Will you be the fire? Will you be the reckoning that they never saw coming? Not today. This is the death delivery they waited for. Will you be the reckoning that they never saw coming? One thing is certain. You are not theirs anymore. And for the first time, they understand exactly what that means. Now they run. They never thought this day would come. They never thought you would rise from the ashes they buried you in. Never thought you would claw your way back from the abyss, stronger, sharper, more dangerous than ever before. They see it now. The fire in your eyes, the steel in your spine, the force of something they can no longer control. And now they are afraid. The shift in power they spent years trying to convince you that you were weak, that you needed them, that you would always be small, always be silent, always be something they could manipulate. And for a time, maybe you believed them. Maybe you let their words sink into your bones, let their hands mold you into something smaller, something breakable. But not anymore, because you remember now. You remember what they tried to erase. You remember the strength that was always there, waiting beneath the surface. You remember that you were never weak, only restrained. And now the restraints are gone. Now you are the one they fear. The monster they created. They tried to shatter you. They tried to drown you. They tried to drown you. They tried to erase you. But all they did was forge something indestructible. They wanted you to be obedient. They wanted you to be quiet. They wanted you to be afraid. But now, they are the ones who flinch when you speak. Now, they are the ones who tremble when they hear your name. Because the fire they tried to put out has become an inferno. Because the wounds they left on you became battle scars. Because the darkness they buried you in became your kingdom. A dragon does not fear the ones who tried to chain it. A storm does not ask for permission before it destroys. A monster does not beg to be understood. Psychological confrontation, they will say you changed, let them. They will say you became cold, be colder. They will say you are dangerous, let them run. Because they never wanted you to be powerful. They never wanted you to be fearless. They never wanted you to see them for what they truly are. Weak, small, afraid. Now they know they can no longer touch you. Now they see that you will never bow again. Now they realize the truth. They never controlled you. They only controlled your belief that you were powerless. But that illusion is shattered now. Power, and the moment they see it, the moment they see the unbreakable force standing before them, no longer a victim, no longer caged, no longer bound by their lies, they do the only thing left for them to do. They run. So here you stand, no longer in chains, no longer drowning in their lies, no longer bound to the version of yourself they created to keep you small. You are free. You have walked through fire, clawed your way out of the grave they dug for you, and now, you are powerful. But power is a strange thing, isn't it? Because now you face a different kind of question. What will you do with the monster you've become? The moral dilemma? For so long, the only thought that kept you going was revenge. For who was the answer? Peggy, Cocone, Lisa Jones. Silence for Hell, Lisa Mears. The idea of making them pay. The vision of their faces when they realized they no longer had control. The satisfaction of watching them crumble the way they tried to make you crumble. And yet, now that you stand on the other side, you see the truth. Destruction is easy. It would take nothing to burn everything down, to let your rage run wild, to make them feel even a fraction of the pain they inflicted on you. But would that make you free? Or would it make you their mirror? Because power without direction is just chaos. Because destruction without purpose is just another kind of cage. Because the monster they made you into was never meant to stay a monster. No. You were meant to become something greater. Reflection on strength. They wanted you to lose yourself in the fire. They wanted you to let anger consume you. They wanted you to be so focused on proving them wrong that you never realized something far more important. True power is not proving them wrong. It is proving yourself right. Because they do not matter anymore. Their words, their opinions, their judgment, none of it defines you. They never did. You were never weak. You were never fragile. You were never less. They just convinced you that you were. And now you know better. Now you understand that power is not in destruction, but in control. The ability to stand in your own skin and not seek validation. The ability to walk away without looking back. The ability to be who you were always meant to be, without apology, without permission, without regret. So now the question is no longer, who did they make you? The question is, who will you choose to become? Because you have nothing left to prove. Not to them, not to the world, not even to yourself. You are, and that is enough. So let them talk, let them whisper. Let them watch in awe, in fear, in confusion as you rise into something beyond their comprehension. Because this was never about them. This was always about you. And now you are unstoppable. You have come too far to turn back now. The past is behind you, burned to the ground, reduced to the ashes of everything that tried to hold you down. The ghosts of yesterday scream for your attention, but you don't stop to listen. Because this is not about where you've been. This is about where you're going. So now the real question remains, what will you do with the power in your hands? Will you remain in the shadows, haunted by memories of the war you survived? Or will you step forward, stand tall, and own your name? Because this is your moment. Not just to exist, not just to breathe, not just to prove them wrong, but to become something more than even you ever imagined. The call to action, they thought they broke you, they thought they buried you, they thought they could define your existence with their words, their chains, their cruelty. But you decide what happens next. Not them, not the past, not the fear that used to hold you down. You. So what will it be? Will you let them haunt you forever, or will you rise and make sure they never forget your name? Because there is no middle ground. You can either stay in the shadows, a ghost of who you were, or you can step into the fire and let the world see exactly what you've become. The final empowering statement. They made you a monster. But now, you are something far greater. You are the storm. You are the reckoning. You are free. Not just from them, not just from the past, but from every single thing that tried to hold you back. And now, the world will know your name.